So it looks like Broderick Jones is going to be the Steelers' starting left tackle. At least according to yesterday's headlines. Case closed. No more controversy, right? Not really. Not really. I know a lot of people got really excited when they saw that Broderick Jones is going to be the starting left tackle. Dan Moore's going to move over to right, compete with Fautanu. And probably from the latter portion of that statement, a lot of people assumed that Dan Moore would then lose to Fautanu and just be our backup tackle for 2024. The problem is this report, these headlines, didn't come directly from Steelers brass. Mike Tomlin didn't say anything about it. Omar Khan didn't do an interview or a press conference or anything about it. And we haven't heard from Art Rooney. These reports come from Steelers reporter Mark Caboli, and it was just him doing a Monday mailbag, and someone asked him, what do you think the deal is with the tackle spot? And he said, Broderick Jones is your starting left tackle. Moore and Fautanu will battle for right tackle in camp, and the loser of the battle will be the swing tackle. So does Mark Caboli have a better inside track than most people on what the Steelers could be doing? Does he have a better sense of what the Steelers might do positionally and on their depth chart than the average fan? Sure. But my takeaway from this is his best guess, just like it could be mine or yours best guess as to what the Steelers will be doing at tackle. Because my assumption was actually going back to shortly after we drafted Fautanu, I thought it would be Dan Moore and Broderick Jones competing at left tackle, and then Fautanu would be the starting right tackle. Just based off what each of them give for those specific positions. Like, I think they are built or meant for those spots. Like, Dan Moore is a left tackle. He was a left tackle all through college, came into the league over these last 3 seasons, has started at left tackle. Broderick Jones was a left tackle with Georgia, starting left tackle with Georgia. We traded up in the first round to get him. Was a top 15 pick. Like, he was meant to be our franchise left tackle. Now, I get it. He played half the year last year at right tackle, but he probably wasn't even supposed to play. Seeing how the season played out and that Dan Moore and Chooks were still starting at left tackle and right tackle respectively in the middle of the season, like, Broderick Jones was probably just going to sit all of last year, and this would be his main offseason to try to win the starting job. But Chooks had his blow up on the sideline against the Jaguars and everything, and the rest is history. But Broderick Jones was drafted to play left tackle. And then with Fautanu, I know he played left tackle at Washington, but with his size, his athleticism and everything, I think he's more built for right. And the fact, too, he was a pseudo right tackle for Washington, even though he played left because Penix is throwing left-handed. Like, Fautanu wasn't protecting Penix's blind side. So I just thought, with where the players are, with those 3 tackles where they're at their certain careers, like, that would have been the best approach for off-season competition and slotting them in at their certain spots at left tackle and right tackle. But if the Steelers wanted to go this approach instead, I get it too, because you don't want to just give the starting spot to a rookie like that sight unseen. Now, they could have Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu competing at right tackle instead of Dan Moore, but it's like, bro, you heard what Omar Khan said this offseason. Broderick Jones is our left tackle. Broderick Jones was drafted to play left tackle. He's going to get over there sooner rather than later. So I would rather not have him compete at right tackle. And if that meant Jones and Dan Moore compete at left, so be it, because we want Broderick Jones at left tackle long term. So what good is it going to do him competing over at right tackle and getting snaps there when it's like, dude, your future is left tackle. Like, why don't we get your best development there as early as possible, as soon as possible? So, yeah, we could have went that approach. I wouldn't have been a fan of that. Broderick Jones and Fautanu competing at right and just giving Dan Moore the left tackle spot. So this is, in a way, like the happy medium of what I said and what was looking like to be the most likely case. Like, we're going to bump Dan Moore over right, make Fautanu compete for it, not just give it to him, but we also know what it is with Broderick Jones and how he should be our franchise left tackle. This would be a bummer for Dan Moore, though, because, man, played left tackle, these last 7-8 years if you combine college and in the pros, like the deck's kind of stacked against you for winning that job over at right tackle against Fautanu. Now, maybe not completely because I don't know how much Fautanu was playing right tackle. I know he obviously started at left tackle at least this last year and probably the year prior, but I don't know how much he was moving across the line like that. Again, if this is the way they want to go about it, I'm for it. It doesn't just automatically give a rookie the starting job like that, but it also sends a message that, yeah, this is the Broderick Jones era for left tackle, the Broderick Jones era for the offensive line. Like, it's time. Like, come on. We drafted him in the top 15 for a reason. Played good last year, but this year 2 jump is going to be something significant. So, like, let's not waste our time anymore. And then, yeah, Dan Moore, a really valuable piece. I think people overplay or oversell how bad he is. I don't think he's bad. I think he's just solid. He's just not a Broderick Jones. He's just not a top 10, a top 5 tackle in this league. He's not an elite tackle. I'm not saying Broderick Jones is there just yet, but we know that's the path for him. That's the upside. That's the ceiling. Dan Moore, solid starter. I think if he was on the open market, he would get starting left tackle money. He would be starting for some team. Now, would he frustrate you at times? Yeah, but I think, dude, outside of maybe 2 or 3 teams in this league, not a lot of offensive lines these days are, like, amazing. Like, I think every fan of almost every team out there gets frustrated at their offensive line and certain players on their offensive line. That doesn't mean some of these players on O-lines aren't starting quality, but I think that's just where we're at with offensive line play in this league. Dan Moore could start somewhere. I mean, he could start for us this year, technically. He could start somewhere in this league. It's just that, yeah, we drafted 2 tackles back-to-back in the first round these last 2 years. So his time here in Pittsburgh probably will be coming to an end after this season. Writing's on the wall. It is what it is. And the Steelers, if you want to have the future is now approach with getting Fautanu and Broderick Jones in there, I'm all for it. Because there's a reason you drafted those dudes. There's a reason you weren't completely satisfied with Dan Moore. It is what it is. Again, I think Dan Moore could start in this league, but Steelers, we want to get back to old school Steeler ball, man, where we value the offensive line, we prioritize it, and it's a big part of our game, both in the running and passing element of it. And Dan Moore just wasn't up to snuff with our standards, and it is what it is. That's fine. For another team, maybe he fit right in. But yeah, this news, I guess it's not even really news. It's just Mark Caboli taking his best guess at what he thinks is going to happen. And if this is the way to do it, yeah, cool. It's not the best for Dan Moore, but I think it could be a solid approach for the Steelers and how they handle the tackle competition this offseason. It's fine. Yeah, because there's really 3 ways you could do it. If you're going to say Fautanu is right tackle. I mean, because, yeah, if you wanted to say, oh, he could actually be our left tackle, then there's even more combinations. But the 3 ways is you have Fautanu at right, you have Broderick Jones compete with him, and then you have Dan Moore start at left. Or you have Fautanu at right, and you have Dan Moore compete with him and have Broderick Jones start at left. Or you have Broderick Jones and Dan Moore compete at left, and then Fautanu, the job's yours at right. It's all yours. No competition. So those are the 3 ways. And if they want to do it the way where the rookie has to compete for it, and it's Dan Moore, I like that. This might be the best way to do it. The more I'm thinking about it, this is probably the best way. Now, I know my thought was Dan Moore and Broderick Jones compete at left just because, Dan Moore has been a left tackle. Broderick Jones drafted to be the franchise left tackle. But I kind of like this approach a little bit better. I kind of like it. Because if Dan Moore got to start right, Fautanu ain't ready, it is what it is. I just want to get Broderick Jones over to where he's going to ultimately be playing here long term sooner rather than later. Like, I don't want to stunt his development over on the right side if he's supposed to be and going to be playing left eventually. So that's that. Let me know your thoughts on this tackle combination, at least what Kaboli thinks it's going to be. Because I think that would be the best approach, actually. Again, not for Dan Moore, but for this team and the offensive line going forward.